here. Those of you who have attended our Embodied Positive Psychology Summit will recognize Fatima. She was a beloved speaker here. And actually, she's a well-known speaker across the world in this work of authentic strengths. She is a best-selling author. We're going to be talking about her books today. She's a speaker, she's a coach, and she really looks to motivate her audiences, whether it's in coaching or in speaking, to rise to their best. She's passionate about that, to really leverage strengths, not just for information, but actually for transformation. She's passionate about empowering people for sustainable high performance, because how often do we do high performance things that just drain us? So talking about high performance as a sustainable activity. And her personal experience is really colored and informed by her background as a refugee. She's overcome adversity and can speak firsthand to what is it like to garner resilience, to keep building on and moving forward from challenges in life. She has a couple of books. She has her Authentic Strengths, which lovely, all about character strengths. Is really an adult book, but her most recent book is True You. And that's a kid's book that we're going to be talking about today. And I love, as I was telling Fatima when we were getting ready to start, I love simple concepts. And she's really brought down this stuff very simply to how to do this from a very early age. She's the founder of Authentic Strengths Advantage. She's served as a co-founder and co-director of Franklin Covey's Global Executive Coaching. She is on faculty for Franklin Covey's Columbia Business School Executive Coach Certification Program. And she can be found on AuthenticStrengths.com. So let me just make sure I put up her website so you see AuthenticStrengths.com. And Sonia, if you wouldn't mind popping that also in the comments section, that would be great. So hello, my dear friend. Hello again, and welcome to the show. Glad you're here. The first question I have for you is, why this kid's book? What was your motivation to want to be called to write this book?
That's a great question, because I really hadn't worked with children a lot in the past. And as you know, I've done a lot of corporate training, and that's my background. And previously, I was on the Columbia Franklin Covey coaching program certification. But in my new life, after having written these books and founding Authentic Strengths Advantage, I actually received inquiries from schools who knew I was a resilience expert. So one school, very sadly, had 2 suicides in the same week, and they were junior high kids. And it was just devastating for the entire community. Mm-hmm. And I went in to help them with resilience tools. So I created this program for their high school students and junior high students. And while I was training 27 of their teachers, counselors, nurses, and health and PE teachers, that's how they rolled it out. They said, we want all of the grade levels represented here. So 7 of the schools in the district sent representatives to the certification. And the younger grade representatives said, this is great content, but we need something more simplified for the little kids. And so I partnered with 2 amazing women. One of them actually, the illustrator, attended that school a few years prior, and her name is Whitney Wilding, and she did the beautiful illustrations. And her mother is Kristen Walton, and she did the prose. She took my ideas and sentences and turned them into this beautiful prose. So I have to give these 2 wonderful women credit. And when you read the book, there's a special spirit in it. There really is. You can feel it. There's a lot of light in the book, and it teaches kids about their internal fortitude. It teaches them how to draw on that when challenges come.
I love that, because one of the things about resilience is we wish we were all, when we begin to learn about it as an adult, we wish we had learned it when we were younger. So speak to how you framed it for the younger folks. Like how are you using words like to really pull forth, what do these words mean?
Right. So I wish I had had this when I was younger. And as a matter of fact, my co-contributors also said that while we were working on the project. We would say quite often, man, if only we had this when we were kids. And you mentioned earlier my refugee experience. So my family immigrated to this country when I was 3 years old as a result of a war in Angola. And it was a very traumatic time for us. As a matter of fact, my brother, when we came here, he had a traumatic head injury, and he ended up with self-medicating with addiction issues and passed away at a young age. Mm. And so there were a lot of challenges growing up. And I remember my mother would often say at home, "Ay, que miseria," which means, "Oh, what misery." And I grew up with euphemisms like that. I grew up visiting my brother in jail. It was a really difficult thing for our family. So I had this internal desire from a very young age to find what it was to be flourishing. I would watch people who appeared to be flourishing and notice what the differences were. And I gravitated toward positive psychology because of that. And I've learned a lot of great tools, and I am so passionate about helping others, about sharing this information with others. And like I said earlier, if only I'd had this when I was younger, but now I can share this with children as well. So you talk about how do we reach these kids? I think rhyming is such a big part of reaching children when things sound beautiful and they're memorable. And I think, of course, the artwork. I mean, who doesn't connect with beautiful artwork? So we try to reach their hearts, their heart intelligence, not just their minds. And in classrooms, we're teaching teachers. As a matter of fact, in the back of the book, and I just happen to have the book right here, in the back of the book, we have teaching helps. And there are 2 pages that tell you, as a parent or an educator, what to do before you read the book, what to do during the reading of the book, and then what to do after. So there are some really specific things that you can do to help the children gain the most from the book and enjoy it. And I've watched, people have actually been videotaping as they're reading the book to their children or grandchildren, and they've sent me videotapes. And people send me messages saying, "My child says, can you read it again?" So one grandmother emailed me and said, "My grandchild, every time he comes to the house, he says, 'Can I read the book about character?'" So, and I believe he's 3, and he wants her to read it to him. So I think kids do feel the light that comes from these character strengths.
I love that. You actually led into the next question I was going to ask. And by the way, if there are any questions, I see people joining us right along. Give her a thumbs up, a heart, share now if what she's saying you want to make sure other people hear too. And if you have any questions, do type them in. Hi, Kathleen. I see that you're here too. Lovely to have you on. And so one of the other next questions I was going to ask you, actually, you led into is this idea of, okay, not just reading a book, but actually having a before, during, and after. Can you give us some sense of the tools, that the suggestions that you have, other than just reading the great content, which is lovely and rhyming and beautiful?
Right.
What are some of the ideas that you would have from a tool perspective? Because we have a lot of educators, teachers, parents, and who doesn't have a little one in their life that they want to help shape towards what's strong and good and working within them?
Absolutely. So before, I think it's really important to help children understand what is a character strength, right? And the book has a beautiful rhyme in it that describes what a character strength is. And if it's okay, I'm just going to read that rhyme because it's so beautiful. And then there are some additional things we say when we're helping kids to understand the language, this new language that we're teaching them. So the rhyme is, "You're exceptional, awesome, and wonderful too. You are full of good traits that help you be you." Traits are called character strengths. There are 24. You were born to do great things with them, I am sure. So that's how we introduce it. And then you talk more to the children about what are these good traits. So think about times when you do things. Think about all the things you love to do. that make you really happy, and tell me about those. Or maybe you have them share with another student. And then after they've explored this, ask them, what character strengths do you think you're using? You know, what is it? And obviously that would be after introducing the 24 character strengths as well. So these are some ways to help them to connect before, during, and after. We also have them draw pictures because, as we mentioned earlier, children really connect to art. We have them think of times that they were really happy, like I said earlier, not just in doing, but also feeling happy. And maybe write a story about their best self. So we have them use all these different modalities and start to connect with what's highest and best within themselves. And then after exploring the book fully, we have them think about what strengths give them the most energy and that they'd like to try and use every day, try to remember every day. Obviously, you know, those are their top strengths, or what we call signature strengths. So we're already getting them to engage in thinking about how they're going to use them consistently every day, at least one of those, thinking about that strength. And then also strengths building, we even address that, and that comes later after they've had some exposure to the strengths. And so maybe they want to think about a strength, maybe generosity, maybe they want to get better at sharing. And they think about ways that they can build that strength. So those are the before, durings, and after processes.
I love that. And well, so I'm hearing feedback. I'm not sure if anyone else is, but we'll keep going. Cindy says she had no question, but what she's mentioning is that it was easy to strength spot listening to you, Fatima. And I would imagine as you teach children to spot strengths within themselves, it becomes easier for them to then strength spot in others. So maybe talk a little bit about the language of depression and suicide, anxiety, the difficulties that we're seeing in the world today and in young children today, very young children today, how important it is to give them a new lens in language to look at self and others. Would you like to speak a little bit to that?
Absolutely. So, and I'm going to connect that to strength spotting as well. So strength spotting is when you see greater energy in people. And, you know, if they're using their strengths, you usually can spot those strengths because their posture will be better. Often they'll have light shining through their eyes. They'll typically lean forward. Their language and their communication will get a little faster and more animated. So these are ways that you can see strengths in others, spot strengths in others. And when you talk about the challenges that we're seeing today, the alarming rise in suicide, addiction, bullying. As a matter of fact, the World Health Organization released a study this past year that showed that the number one reason for disability in the entire world is depression and anxiety. And when I wrote my first book 2 years ago, it was the number 2 reason. And at that time, they estimated about 120 million people were debilitated by depression and anxiety. Well, now 2 years later, 300 million people around the world are debilitated by depression and anxiety, and it's growing. And in my home state of Utah, youth suicide rates have gone up over 130% since 2015. And that's ages 10 through 18. And that's just devastating. And we're getting reports of 8-year-olds killing themselves. So something is happening. And this is not the entire solution, character strength, but I do firmly believe that it's a part of the solution. It's part of the prevention. If people can connect with what's best in themselves, we talked about strength spotting earlier. If they can connect with what gives them that energy, what gives them that inner light that you see glowing through their eyes, that is in essence one antidote to depression and anxiety. And there are hundreds of studies that are revealing that when people learn to use their strengths of character consistently, that depression and anxiety does reduce, that resilience is built, energy and engagement go up, life satisfaction is reported higher. There are so many benefits. So there are so many reasons, really, to teach this to children, to get this message out to kids.
Thank you so much. And what I also loved about what you were saying was sometimes when we're trying to spot strength in others, whether it's in adults or in kids, we tend to be cognitive about it. Like, oh, of the 24 character strengths, what am I seeing and how is it being portrayed? What you said to us is a really simple way of what I think is, I'm going to write this down, embodied strengths. That we can simply look at people, and when we see them enlivened and energized and moving their hands and their facial expressions, it's pretty simple, isn't it, to see when are the lights on?
It is. And when we see that, we ought to reflect that back. And this is something that I'm often asked. You know, I've been on some TV interviews, and there, at one of them, actually, there was a live studio audience and a lot of parents in that audience. And they asked, you know, what can we do specifically? And when you see that glow in your child's eye, when you see that animation, call it out and tell them, wow, you really enjoyed being on that team, didn't you? Teamwork must be one of your top strengths. Or, you know, I see you look so proud of yourself that you finished that long project. Perseverance must be one of your strengths. That must give you a lot of energy. So call out the strength for the child, help them to connect the dots early in life.
And it's so easy as a parent or an adult or as a caregiver or a teacher or educated to notice what's not going right, the D they got on their test or the behavior issues. And this does change the attention of the adult in the room towards the children as well. It's not just a one-way street.
Absolutely. And I really think it's an energetic change. I mean, everything really comes down to energy, right? And if you're choosing to see the wholeness in your child, if you're choosing to see their highest self, that will influence their behavior. And I worked for 20 years, with Stephen Covey's organization. And I remember Stephen Covey saying many times, he would say, treat people to their highest potential and they will rise to it. It's the same principle. See the best in people, they will rise to it. So let's start doing that with our kids. And yes, I have 2 boys, and my youngest is now going off to college in August. And there have been many times when I've been concerned with my boys about, maybe grades on a particular class or whatever it might be. But it's so important to remember to temper that and to change the trajectory of your energy that you flow toward them and the attention that you pay toward them, because I believe it will change the trajectory of the relationship and even of their lives. It's that appreciative inquiry principle that we all need to value and use, don't you think?
I do. That's why we're here today. That's why we do these Whole Being Wednesday things. That's why Whole Being Institute exists in the first place. So I'm so grateful for your work. I'm so grateful for you being here. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to end with all of you who are on or who come on later to write in the comments what strengths you spot in Fatima. What have you heard today from Fatima that has had a positive impact on you? What strengths do you see in her? How can we shower her with gratitude and love and caring and mirror back to her the good we see in her? So if you could in the comments, share it, give a thumbs up, give a heart, share it with others. I'm going to just see if there's any things that I didn't say from the folks in here live. Oh, I love that you're writing that in. Thank you so much, everybody, for writing that in. Is there anything I haven't said, Fatima, that you would like to add in that I haven't asked you about before we close out today?
So I just want to invite everyone to discover their own unique strengths profile And we use the VIA character strengths, and they're grounded, like I said earlier, in hundreds of research studies around the world. And you can go to our website, authenticstrengths.com, and click on the Take Free Strengths survey, discover your own unique strengths profile, and start leveraging those strengths. And thank you again so much for having me on, Megan.
Oh, always my pleasure to speak with you. So this is a website, and Sonia will go ahead and put that down in the comments section as well. Thank you, Sonia, for that. I appreciate it. And also, as always, want to give you some freebies. As always, you know that we have a free ebook, free video lessons, a free Spire check-in for you to continue your journey in whole being. So any tools and techniques that we can give you, we're happy to do so. This is where you can get your free goodies. And Sonia will also put that down in the comments section. So again, thank you for being here today, everybody. Let's see, did I miss anything else? People coming in, very nice. Oh, let me just do, I always like to hear from people. Let's see what Phoebe has to say. I use your book all the time in my therapy and coaching practice. Thank you for your work and a lovely conversation. Thank you, Phoebe, for that. Many different ways of using that. Yeah, I agree. And Phoebe also says it's a lovely follow-up with our conversation last week with Lamas, who wrote a book, actually the week before last, who also wrote a children's book. So I really love that the library for children's books on positive psychology and some of those concepts are being built. Let's see, what else did I miss? Oh, good. Paula just ordered your books. She taught for kids. Yes, excellent. Thank you, Paula. And I think that's it for now. We have reached our time. Have a great day, everybody. It's been my pleasure being here. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Much love. Have a great day. Bye, Fatima.
Thank you.